Police officer Bill Nichols had been shot at point-blank range with his own .357 Magnum by a suspect who was being arrested. When the shot was fired, Officer Nichols' wife, Julie, and 14-year-old son, Bill Jr., were near the scene.
When I first heard those shots, I said they must be firing warning shots to make him stop.
I quick twisted the weapon away from the direction of Officer Nichols. But I could feel the strength of this man. He was so strong. And he was pulling the gun back towards Officer Nichols. So I put my thumb in behind the trigger guard to stop the travel of the trigger.
You can't shoot.
And then this man pulled the trigger again and again and again, at least 6 times. And I was saying, stop struggling. You have a weapon. You're going to force us to kill you. And indeed, at that time, we had the moral and legal right to kill this man. But he cursed at me and said, kill me. Go ahead, kill me. He didn't care.
I could hear Paul Stoltz yell to me that Bill's been shot. Get an ambulance.
The situation was bordering on chaotic at first. There was a lot of confusion as to the proper location of the police officer.
He was so very strong, and I believe at the time he was on drugs, and that tripled his efforts.
I could feel the gun. Then I just started pulling. I had to tell Ed about 2 or 3 times that it was okay that I had the gun.
I could hear hollering and screaming. I could see some officers in the distance, but I couldn't pick Bill out at all.
Unbelievable amount of blood coming out of Officer Nichols. And I kept telling Officer Bill that it's going to be all right. The more I looked at Bill while I'm telling him this, the more I knew that I was lying to him. I grabbed the beach towel and I was just trying to control that bleeding. He was getting worse in 5 and 10 second increments.
I remember saying to myself, please God, don't let him die, because I could see him bleeding real bad. His color, you could just see him turn him pale white.
We got officers on the street to take them to Lincoln Avenue on the rear alley, 500 block.
Off-duty paramedic Mike Eckenrode heard the dispatchers struggling to pinpoint an exact location.
We're at the firehouse, and based on what we were hearing and the confusion that was apparent on the radio, we felt that maybe the crew that was on needed a hand. So at that point in time, the 3 of us went to the scene to see if we could render some assistance.
It's an indescribable feeling. It's grief, it's heartache, it's helplessness, it's terror, it's everything you can think of mixed into one moment.
The first paramedic on the scene was Michelle Ottaviano.
At that point in time, I wasn't 100% sure where the person who did the shooting was. It was a pretty scary situation. It wasn't until I knelt down next to the person who wasn't moving on the ground that I saw the uniform and realized it was a police officer that had gotten shot, that apparently had nicked an artery, the femoral artery. And with severing the femoral artery, every time your heart pumps, it pushes the blood out in spurts.
Michelle, what do you need? There was an awful lot of confusion and commotion around the scene. I looked down and realized that the guy laying on the ground was Billy Nichols. And, I've worked in the town where I'd go on an ambulance call and Bill would come in and give me a hand carrying my equipment or, whatever needed to be done. It's a pretty rude awakening when you look down and see somebody kind of like looking back at you. That's pretty tough to do.
We're a small town here. Prospect Park is a little town. I didn't want Bill's wife hearing about it from the neighbors. I wanted me to tell her. That was my responsibility.
Very rarely do you see somebody who, as critical as Bill was, stay conscious. I remember him telling me he was fighting to stay with us, because I knew the whole time, being a police officer, I knew he was dying, and that's what he was doing. He was dying. He was bleeding out massively.
I started getting the feeling that maybe something was wrong, that I told my son, go back up to the road and look down to our house and to see if there's a police car in front.
He was looking really bad. you begin to know that look. That's the look of a dying person. There's no doubt about it. And the more you look at it, and the more you work on the street, the more you see it. It's the look of a dying man. It really is.
When the ambulance left with Bill in the back, I really thought that we'd be going to a police funeral in a few days.
Officer Kenzel drove Bill Jr. back to where his mother was.
I said, he'd been shot. It doesn't look too good, but he's still alive now, and let's pray. And we did.
It was about 5 or 6 minute ride from the scene to the hospital. The condition that Bill was in, every action and every moment really counted. You couldn't delay 5 or 10 minutes one way or the other.
Bill Nichols was immediately rushed into surgery. His condition was critical.
I had like a peace, a total calm that came over me. I just knew he would be okay. It would be bad, but I never had the feeling that he was going to die.
10 months have gone by. The man who shot Bill Nichols was convicted of aggravated assault. Bill has not forgotten the debt he owes to his best friend, Officer Ed Kenzel.
If it wasn't for him being there as quickly as he was and using his knowledge in placing his thumb behind the trigger, the suspect might have easily fired more rounds off. One of the primary reasons I'm alive today is because of my fellow officer, Ed Kenzel.
This brings back memory, doesn't it?
The fact that I could do something to save his life tickles me up and down, because if anybody deserves being saved, it's him. And the fact that I can look at him now and see him smiling and laughing at my jokes, that's worth $1 million. I love it.
More than a year after the incident, Bill has returned to active duty as a police officer.
It's very different when somebody that you know well, worked close with over the years and known him and know his whole family. It hits home. And we're a big family. We live and almost die together.
I knew that everyone did what they had to do because they did it. I had a second chance at life. And no words can express the feeling of thankfulness towards those individuals.
I'm very lucky to have Bill around. No one could take his place. There's not another man like him. I love Bill with all my heart. I always have since I was 16. Until the day I die, there'll be nobody else but Bill.
Next,